person and really just answer, any questions that you may have, or however I can help your audience.
Cool, cool. Shital, so I think the recording just started.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So let's just redo it again. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Shital, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to come on today. You're coming on from the show Indian Matchmaking, and as you know, you're very ambitious, courageous, determined, and you are an icon to people looking up to you in that space, and especially trying to find love and to find relationship and like finding like the right partner and the right spouse. Feel free to introduce yourself. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Umang. I'm so excited. So I'm Sheetal. I'm from season 2 of Indian Matchmaking, and I am so excited to come on and share a little bit about myself and my journey, and hopefully get into some fun questions and different things that people may not know about me.
Hey.
So yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you for being on the show. So I know you are from New York City, and like you're from there. So how is it like living the New Yorker lifestyle and then going into Indian matchmaking? I don't know if a lot of people have asked you that, but I'm sure it's a transition, right? Because you also have your regular job and then you have this new opportunity. How did you kind of deal with like the transition?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm a Jersey girl at heart. So I grew up in New Jersey, but I've lived
Gotcha.
in New York for most of my adult life. And
Ah, okay.
I when I got the opportunity for Indian matchmaking, I had already been through, I would say, probably over 10 years of dating in New York City. And that in itself is a beast. And I always talk about that and how difficult it is. I'm not sure if you mainly date
Mhm.
in New Jersey, but New York is just like
Everywhere,
it's
all
just
states.
a whole different ball game, and just so many personalities and different things. So being in New York, I was exposed to a lot of different people coming from different backgrounds. It was entertainment, art, the finance world. So I would say my transition to actually get on the show and being on the show wasn't, it was pretty smooth for me, I would say. And I think overall, I had a really good experience with the show.
Awesome, awesome. And was it like how, when you got casted and stuff, was it kind of like you got casted in like a few months, or was it like a long process, you would
Yeah,
say?
so interestingly enough, I had done another show called In a Man's World for Bravo a few years ago, and so I had kept in touch with those producers, and then Netflix. This project actually didn't get greenlit, but in 2021, Netflix was working on another Indian dating show, not season 2 of Indian Matchmaking, but another show, brand new show,
I
and
see.
so they, had reached out to me for that opportunity, and then that project never got greenlit. And so, I think I was auditioning, or doing the Zoom interviews for
Right.
maybe about a month or a month and a half, and then I didn't hear anything, and then they reached back out to me because I was really at a point where I was like, I want to meet someone, and I just thought it would be fun to do it on
Yeah.
camera. Like I was like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be fun. So then a month later, I think they reached back out to me and they were like, well, now we're casting for season 2 of a different Indian dating show. And even then, it didn't click with me that it was Indian matchmaking. So I just kind of went through the process, and, I was myself, and I went through maybe 2 months or so of just different Zoom interviews and kind of going back and forth with the producers. So I'd say like it was probably like a 4-month process.
Yeah, because your character on the show and in real life, I mean, I feel like it's still the same. I feel like baseline, you're still very well put together. You're still big on fitness. You're big on faith. You're big in spirituality, and that resonates well with me because I feel like those are the qualities of a woman that also I would respect and I also would always like could connect with, right? Like when it comes to spirituality, because you also want to see like your relationship with religion, relationship with God. How would you say that like in your dating lifestyle, how did you go through all these different um, battles and stuff? Because it's
Mhm.
interesting, right? You see a lot of different backgrounds and diversity and different kinds of people.
Definitely. I mean, truth be told, so I'm 39 and I've been dating for a long time, and I've had, string of failed relationships, and so you always learn things from them. Maybe you don't think so when you're actually going through it, but I think I've met people from so many different backgrounds, and just no one's experience is the same. Even if you think like, oh, I met somebody that like I'm Gujarati, I met somebody that's Gujarati. They grew up in Jersey just like me, but everyone has their own unique experiences. And I think I would say if I, just being honest with myself, I probably for a majority of my dating history, I was so focused on this list, right? So you write down like, okay, you have your physical things that you like, and then I always wrote that I wanted a deep connection with someone. I wrote, that I wanted someone that was spiritual, but I don't think I actually really delayered that and tried to figure out what that actually meant. So I was always attracting people that, I wouldn't have those, like maybe the physical attributes were there, but like the connection or the spirituality and all of that wasn't exactly aligned.
Emotional.
The emotional connection, all of that. And so when I was doing the show, I think what it really taught me was, and that's, it's not even really, I'm not going to give Seema D credit for that, but I'm going to give myself credit for that was, you go through the list and what you guys see is like, okay, this criteria of things that, each person is looking for. And for me, like that really helped me to break down like what is it that I am actually looking for, and I was looking for a partnership. I was looking for something that was more equal. And then, in terms of like one of the things that I had written down that they really focused on was like I wrote, I want somebody that skydives. But what I really meant by that was I want someone that will share in unique different experiences with me, and go on adventures and travel. And so I think it helped me to break down what I actually was really looking for. So I don't think, throughout my dating history, I don't think I knew what I really wanted.
Yeah, yeah, no, and it's interesting too because like even right now I'm in my late 20s and I have no idea what the heck I want. I've been through so many different states, dating so many different women, and I've had really good like experiences, like no hate to anyone.
Mhm.
But I think like it's always like it always comes down to like something like emotionally not connecting or physically not connecting, or if there's just timing or it's that compromise of moving away somewhere, not moving somewhere. You know, I either maybe agreeing with like religions. So like how like do you feel like this show has like I guess taught you in a way how to like I guess let go of certain things? Not everything is like 100% on the checklist
Yeah,
almost.
and I would say not even like the show is great, and I know
Or in general, yeah.
Neeraj kind of got into this too a little bit, but I've learned so much from him, in terms of like, okay, you have your checklist, you meet somebody, and they could fit, all the little boxes and things that you're looking for, but in order to actually sustain and maintain that relationship, it is, I would just say like that part is a lot more involved, and it's hard. It's really hard sometimes, and so I think in order to navigate that, you have to know yourself, and you have to be really honest with yourself. And I think
Right.
at that point, then you can be in a successful relationship. But that I would say the list is just kind of the beginning of starting, when you're starting to date somebody. That's just the beginning. You really have to find a way to kind of deconstruct what you're actually meaning by whatever you're saying on that list.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's even harder when you're on a show because like when you're on a show, you could be saying stuff when the cameras are on, but when the cameras are off, there's just a lot of other stuff that goes into play. Like, oh my God, I like ice cream, but like, oh my God, I like cheese. But then like behind the scenes, there's so many other things you have
Yeah,
to, you know, figure out. So, um,
definitely, definitely. I think sustaining a relationship. They Neeraj and I talk about this. Like they should do a show on how to keep a relationship, because that's really where the work comes in, and then that's also where a lot of the things that you sort of like, like if you want somebody that's like from your same religion, or you want somebody that maybe likes the similar things that you do, all of those things do come into play in the actual relationship, because sometimes people can't like fundamentally work through those things, if there's
yeah.
such big differences, I guess.
No, definitely. I think there's like so much to uncover. And like for me, I personally have when I really like someone, I feel like, and I'm going on a date and like I'm really anxious. It's one of those things I need to like take a few breaths, but the date sucks anyways because
Uh-huh.
it's just I royally mess it up. Like I'm just like like just dropping drinks and stuff. But now I think I've gotten a better visual of maybe let's take things a little slower. And this is what I learned in my late 20s.
Mhm.
But in my mid 20s, I was just like super hyperactive and so excited. But then it's like scares the person away because you like them so much that you're willing to just go crazy, and then that's not how it works because it can clearly scare the other person. So
Mhm.
I just my point is like I used to have a lot of anxiety like with some of these dating experiences. It's
Yeah,
really hard.
I was there. I had so much anxiety, especially as a woman, because
Oh
once
yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a pretty conservative Gujarati family. Like my grandmother lived with us, so like starting at like 15, it's like, oh, you make sure that you're married by like 23, and like that's
Yeah.
when your life starts, and all these things, right? So I had all these things in my head, and so when I started dating more seriously in my 20s, like when I moved to New York. I had anxiety, but I also put so much freaking pressure on every single date because I was like, oh, this is the end all be all and it has to work. And I think when you get into, especially like a lot of women will DM me now and they're like, how do you reduce that anxiety or how do you stay calm when you're going into a situation? And if I could do it over again, I would just say like, because I did this with Neeraj when we started talking, of course I was attracted to him and I thought he was a great person. But we didn't meet until 2 months in. So we really became friends. And as cliche as that sounds, like I think if you can go into interaction and not even make it an interview, but it's like maybe do like a mock date with your friend, right? So when you're sitting across from a friend, you're open and you're free and you can kind of say what you want and you're not sitting there thinking like, is this going to be the person I marry? Or is every single thing about them right? And do I need to know every single thing about them that matches my checklist right in this moment? And I think if you can kind of treat it like, okay, this is a new person I'm meeting, it's a friend, and you treat it that way and you go into it, I think you'll have a different outcome. But I also think you'll have a different experience. And that doesn't mean like, oh, it's guaranteed it's going to work out, but it helps you to stay a little more curious and start asking some more questions versus like, I know friends that have gone on dates, and I've done it too, where it's like, do you want to have kids? Like, are you
Yeah,
looking for something serious? And it's like date one, like chill, and
yeah, yeah.
I've had that done to me too. So if you treat the interaction like, okay, this is, and I'm like, I take acting classes and I'm all about like role play, like do it with a friend before you with that a girlfriend that you're comfortable with before you actually go on the date, and that it'll calm your nerves. I mean, it will.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. But also I want to say like a devil's advocate to that. A
Mhm.
lot of guys are afraid of the friend zone.
Yeah.
So how do you, like you said, you like Niraj hit the sweet spot. He was your friend, but he ended up being your partner. So
Mhm.
how do you hit that zone without being friend zone?
That's a,
Did
that,
he
but
have a swag or something, or
he
the
did.
charisma? Like,
I mean, I really thought at a certain, because I mean, he has swag. He definitely has a lot of swag, but
Yeah,
he's
for
not
sure.
the typical guy that like I dated in the city, right? So like when I would go on dates in the city, like automatically it's like you go out, they're like whining and dining, and they're like, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and like it's like and some guys are like aggressive, like they'll be like ready to like make out on the
Yeah.
first, which I'm not against. Like that's fine, I've done it, but with Nira, like I couldn't, I don't know, I couldn't really tell. So I didn't put him in the friend zone just because I was attracted to him, even though I hadn't met him. But he, at a certain point, before we met, he needed some help with Instagram Reels, and I really thought like he was just friends with me, and he just wanted me to be like his social media manager. Like, there is a fine line. I mean, don't stretch
Yeah.
it out 2 months, like what we did. But I would say I don't think you're gonna be friend zoned in date one. I think if you go in and like I don't think that you can be friend zoned in date one. I think if you go in and treat this as just like a chill interaction, you'd be surprised. And I think girls appreciate that.
No, no, that's good. And it's good to know that, it's not always just gonna be like them ending in the friend zone. Sometimes you have to play your cards right, but I guess you're trying to say is like give it enough time for like the seeds to be planted and then let that go. So on that note, I want to say like one of my favorite quotes.
Okay.
Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant by Robert Louis Stevenson.
They're
So
beautiful.
yeah. So like, just like let things just grow on their own naturally,
Mhm.
organically like a plant, and then let it just kind of fester
Yeah.
up and do its thing. So on
And
that note,
just to your point, I just want to say something to your
sure,
viewers. That quote applies not only in the beginning stages, but that applies when you're actually in the relationship too. Because even when you're, it's like we as South Asians, we feel so much pressure in so many different ways. And so it's like even when you're in the relationship, like it's like, okay, now I found the person, and then it's like, what's the next step? What's the next step? But it's like what you said, you have to plant those seeds and grow together and have fun, and it doesn't mean you don't have I mean, you should have the common goal if you want to get married or whatever it is. But I really like that quote, and I think it applies even when you're in the actual relationship.
it's one of my favorite quotes of all time because I always feel like it can be applied to anything in life, even
Yeah.
working out, which I'm like a fitness junkie on, and
Yeah, I
just
love. I know. I want to get into that. I saw your lifting videos. I was like, I love it. I love it. I love
yeah,
an Indian dude that.
yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. As growing up, I kind of like was always a little bit on the heavier side,
Same,
but
same.
yeah, so like just it was like a 15-year battle actually, and
Uh-huh.
recently the last 3, 4 years I lost like 12% body fat
Uh-huh.
in
Oh,
in
that's
general.
great. I just
Yeah, it
did
was
my
immense.
I did my in body today, and I'm like, sometimes the scale doesn't even matter. It's just
Yeah,
you gotta continue to lift because I stopped lifting. I was so like good, not good, but I was so on it
yeah.
during the show, and then the last 3 months I'm kind of just like, oh, I'm in love and I'm chilling. So,
Yeah, and lifting gets you cut too. I like you see marks and dents like you've never seen before when you lift. So,
yeah, it's
um,
cool. It's cool.
and I didn't know that because I used to do cardio growing up so much all the time, like hours on end. Just
Doesn't work.
nope, doesn't work. And then I started CrossFit, and then next thing you know, I'm lifting all these kettlebells and long barbells, all these different places, launching it over my head, doing the Murph for the veterans in the army.
Beans.
Yeah, and I just saw so much progress, and it changed my life. And now, like, I'm just more into jump roping, and I try to hit like 2 steps. So I try to do double jump in one
Wow,
go. So that,
great.
yeah. But aside from that, I think it's one of those things where like it really helps aids my mental health,
Mhm.
and I do it every day religiously. So like I can be in like the number one step or number one like number one feeling of myself. Like I can be like my
Mhm.
A1 self. So I think that really plays a role into it. And just growing up, I always played sports and stuff, but I never could get rid of that like just that body fat percentage. So I kind of just forced myself to kind of work out really hard. And
Mhm.
my parents actually like Indian parents and stuff in general have diabetes a lot.
Yeah,
So like sugar, glucose level. So I didn't want to be in that situation. So I kind of changed my life around for the better.
good. I'm so proud of you. Yes, I can relate to that so much. Growing up, because and that's the other thing. It's like when you're, I know many people deal with this, but like especially when you're Indian, it's really
Yeah.
tough. Like because you're always around family and you're going to functions and things, and they just that's like the first thing that they'll comment on, and it's very defeating for a young person.
It's very disheartening. I mean, even right now, like just because I'm fit doesn't, I don't even get a grace period because I'm 29, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, wow, you're 29, you're not married yet, or you don't even have a girlfriend, or you're not getting engaged, and I'm like, damn, haters.
Yeah, you're gonna get that. And even, as much as I say, like, okay, of course, like I think women, South Asian women get a lot of that, but I think
Yeah.
it goes both ways. Guys get it too.
Yeah, guys get it really bad, like pretty badly too, because everyone says like, oh, you have time, you're a guy, but also like, it's hard to find someone that's on that same wavelength as you, no matter any age. It could be a girl that's 22, 24, 29, 30, but if they're not on that same maturity level, or vice versa, if the guy's not on the same maturity level as the woman, it's just never gonna work out. So I think people are missing the ball. Like it's not about a numbers game. It's more so about the relationship molding itself and
Yeah,
becoming a good
absolutely.
relationship. So.
I mean, you're telling me I'm 39, so
Yeah. Forget me. You're the wiser one. Never
no,
mind.
I'm saying I waited a long time. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
No, for sure. But I love your maturity on the show. I think you're very growth focused, and I feel like you waiting so long and taking your time with everything was like the reason it paid off, and you found someone
Mhm.
amazing like Neeraj. Because I think not a lot of people can do what you can, and they look up to that. And I think you're kind of like almost like a guide for them if they're like in your shoes. So
Yeah,
thanks.
absolutely. And it's not. I mean, I wish I could I wish I could find a way to even document what I've been through, but it is, it's challenging, and so I'm glad that I was able to share that at least on the show, and I'm glad that they captured it, authentically, because sometimes, with edits and things, it may not come off that way, but I think it's great that people can see, like, it's hard as fuck, but if you
Seriously.
like, you can just keep, and if you keep going, it'll eventually, it'll lead you to where you're meant to be. There's no guarantee that you'll meet someone. I didn't feel that way. I knew I would meet, my soulmate eventually. I just didn't know how or when. So, but there's just no guarantee. So I just you just continue to focus on yourself. That's it.
Right. And did you like right after that, like when you right after you casted the show and you saw the social media coming your way, how did you overcome it as an obstacle? Was that something that you kind of saw like all this attention being thrown your way and then you were like, wow, like, like how did you deal with that? Because it's a lot from what I hear, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I know there have been other cast members that have dealt with a lot of negativity. Even in the second season. But I guess I've
Yeah.
been I mean, with the exception of like some things on Twitter, I guess I've been pretty lucky in the sense that, like, a lot of the messages that I've gotten have been really positive. And it's more like, this is inspiration, this is hopeful, or it's like I need some advice. But it was overwhelming, I think, the first couple of weeks, because you start to feel like I'm not an expert. Like, should I be
Yeah.
giving this advice? Kind of things like that. But I'm like, okay, if I can help someone, that's been my goal. I don't know how I'm going to channel that, but that's always been a goal of mine, is to, help women in some way, just with everything that I've been through personally. So I don't, I think it was a little overwhelming, but I think, I've just been lucky in that sense, where it's been pretty positive.
Yeah, I think you handled it very well because I think all your posts are still 100% you. And it
Mhm.
seems like you're not like going around just like just talking about your life constantly. I feel like you're doing things with your life, which is like good. It's not like you're dwelling on the past. You're just kind of moving forward, and it's nice to see that growth in a character, or I mean, not
Yeah.
character, a
Oh,
person. But
exactly.
I relate to you as
No,
like
no,
the character for
it's
sure.
fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's
So.
fine. But I think that's kind of what I'm a type A overachiever. So I think that's what I struggle with sometimes, because I'm like, okay, I had this platform.
Oh
I
my
was able
God.
to
Yeah.
tell my story, and I loved it, and it was a great experience. But then you're like, okay, what's next? What am I going to do with this? How am I going to channel all of these things, these great things that have come out of it? How can I, help people? But then you also want to, I mean, I support myself. Like, I also want to build a career out of that. It's like,
Right. 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 It's almost like you're using your platform to help others, but then also help your own brand too at the same time because you
exactly,
need
exactly.
that because then your voice can carry over to other people and new people too, right? And not
Right.
only
And
South Asian space, but other races and stuff too.
exactly. And I think as women, at least for me, I don't, I didn't grow up with, like, my dad sort of like handled, like, we never really learned about finances and things like that. So I think, it's really important, as a woman in any culture, just to have that financial independence. So if you can, build a business, build yourself up, and do that and hustle, I think that having that freedom for yourself is priceless.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think having that grand hustle is definitely like inspirational because it's hard to have it, It's just hustle is
Yeah.
one thing, but to like everyday grind, post these videos, post something new, have reels,
I know. I'm lagging on that, but hopefully I'll find my voice eventually. But
yeah,
yeah, I give so much credit to these content creators, the Gen
seriously.
Zers. They're just getting after it, and I think it's like it's just incredible to see that, because it's a lot of work, more work than I anticipated.
I can't imagine people like my people my brother's age. My brother's 16 in high school,
Uh-huh.
and they have people that are around their age that are doing TikToks like constantly, and
Uh-huh.
they're blowing up. But I mean, being like a young person
Mhm.
just doing TikToks like every 5 minutes is
Yeah.
it's overwhelming. Like they're not used to that kind of lifestyle. So,
No,
but
no. But I think it's cool. I guess just kind of thinking about that generation and TikTok, I think it's important and cool to understand that, it for them, it's a way to express themselves. Like, they're free to literally express themselves however they want. And
Oh
you know,
yeah.
we didn't have that growing up. I mean, our parents dictated everything we did, like activities, like even to the point of like we weren't allowed to date, and there were so many things that we were closed off from, and we didn't have that freedom of expression, at least I didn't. So I think it's amazing that that generation can literally, if they're feeling sad, they can make a video. If they have anxiety, they have a resource to go. And I know social media can cause it too, but I think even I've scrolled on TikTok. There's a lot of creators that are putting out really good content that's helpful, in the mental health space.
No, and I think we have to look at social media differently. Like I'll be the first advocate of it. I think having social media, like too much of it, like I can see it from your standpoint and like my own is like it can be toxic. But for some of these people who actually do look up to some of these creators every day, they're also the future generation of creators are coming in and they're gonna probably just pop off and also we're probably gonna try to, learn from them as well. Whether it's TikTok, whether it's the next big app, whether it's Meta,
Mhm.
or just different virtual reality, like just in general. So I think it's
Yeah,
going to be a very interesting time, especially for South Asians next year, 2023. So,
I think so
because we have
too.
so many more. Holy crap. So, but
Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting year.
yeah, no, I agree. I know you were on a show and like, Shito, I know you were on a show and it's where you pretend to be a man and it was like a
Yeah,
social experiment. This was supposed to be
yeah.
my intro, but
I know.
it didn't work out.
So let's get into it. Let's get into it. No,
Let's do
I'm
it.
so I know it sounds crazy when people are like, "Wait, what?" But I'm so proud of that project. So I did that. I think it was 2016, or maybe was it 2016? Yeah, 2016. I think when that show came out. But the premise of it was a show on Bravo. It was a mini series, and there were four different stories. I was one of the stories, and so the premise of that show was to show gender bias in different situations. And me coming from a South Asian background, my parents have evolved since then, but at the time I noticed that they were treating my male cousins, or like even male friends, they were treating them differently. So like when we would go to events or they would meet them, they would, take an interest in their work and their accomplishments and different things that they were doing. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, you're single and you're not married, and so you have no value. But I felt like for me it was like, because I was unattached, and my sisters were like in relationships and my middle sister had already gotten married, they didn't care that I was kicking ass at work and I had multiple promotions. I started from the bottom. Like none of that mattered to them. It was more so they valued me by my marital status. And so because I was single and no prospects in sight,
Yeah.
my value in their eyes automatically went down. So they weren't understanding that. And so through this experiment,
Oh, wow.
I wore prosthetics and I turned into this character. It's funny, like the character's name is Raj, and I'm now dating Neeraj, who goes by Raj. But so
Raj mix.
I think I was trying to channel Shah Rukh Khan actually. But anyway,
It's
so
okay.
SRK. So
It's his birthday
I
though, right?
is it today? Is this his birthday?
No, it was like yesterday or day before.
Oh, okay, okay. I should have done a
Yeah,
done a tribute post to him. So
yeah,
anyway, I put on full prosthetics, and we did a social experiment where I went into this lunch with my entire family. It was like my parents, like my mommy, like my aunts, like a bunch of different people, cousins. My grandparents were there too. And so I went in as this Raj character, and you could see my dad automatically gravitate towards him and just, talk to him. My dad's really into trading and like the stock market and all that stuff. So he was talking to him and having this intellectual conversation about like just different, finance related things. And then we
yeah.
did another, then we did a lunch where it was my birthday. So we did a birthday lunch with me, and you could see my dad was just ignoring me and like, talking to my uncle that was there. And he didn't ask me anything about work or any of that stuff. So it was like, you could see like the two situations were very extreme. And so when they were played back to my parents, it really hit them that they weren't really valuing me for me. And
Right.
and so it was very eye-opening for all of us. And from that experience, I learned that my dad just didn't like many South Asian dads, right? He just didn't grow up in an environment where it was even okay to ask your daughter these things, and the focus was placed so much on marriage. So we got a lot closer from that experience. And I think, I got some great messages from that show as well, where it was like a lot of women that were going through that with their parents. They're like, how do we navigate this? How do we set boundaries where they're not so focused on just the marital aspect? You really have to learn to set boundaries with your family and your parents, because that also affects your mental health, right? When you're
Right.
constantly being put down and devalued because you're not with someone.
Yeah, and like every year gets harder and harder as you're single and you see people in your life, everyone kind of moving forward, and like I'm sure we're moving forward in every way too as human beings, but it's sometimes so hard to kind of just be constantly compared to other people just because you don't have a partner or
Mhm.
somebody like that next to you. So I commend you for even doing that. But was it also different from just being a guy and stuff? And in that show, did you feel like any different as opposed to being a like just
That's a
a girl?
really, really good question. And I had to look internally for this too, because I
Yeah.
sort of, the experience made me realize that maybe I wasn't as confident. But when I was this Raj character as a guy, we did
Oh
like a
wow.
quick fire like experiment where Metuchen in New Jersey, it's like a small town. So I went to the downtown area, and I met up with my cousin and my sister. They were doing a cake tasting for her wedding. And so they didn't know it was me. So I went and walked in to see if I could actually pull it off. And so, as I was walking down the street, like, I just felt like so much more confident. And, because I was a guy, and then I wasn't like, I don't know, I wasn't really worried about like people like haggling me or like saying things. Like, I just felt like so confident in myself, and I walked into that situation super super confident. Whereas if I were going into that situation as me, I would kind of be like, what are they thinking, because we're cake tasting for her wedding and I'm not married, or like, there were so many things that I had to kind of delayer for myself. But I felt a lot more confident in my male alter ego than I had as myself.
It's interesting because it relates because I had a couple of friends, they're all females and they dressed up as guys for Halloween, and the
Uh-huh.
amount of game they slayed and pulled, I was like shocked because it
Uh-huh.
was like the amount of like girls that they got, and the girls had no idea they actually were girls instead of guys, was like unfathomable, and I lost a bet too. So there goes to show. I feel like women have a very good sense of being confident deep down. It's just you have to bring it out. But that's sick because I've never seen that before, and I'm sure it was a confidence booster for you too. Like, hey, if I could do this as a guy, I can definitely do this as Shital Patel.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely.
so that being said, what is your take on your Instagram handle, the real Shito Patel? Why are you the real Shito Patel? Like,
That's a
there's
good
a
question. So I'll tell you a funny story. So in high school, my nickname was Shitty P. It was Shitty, like
oh,
Shitty.
shitty P, yeah.
And like, people always made fun of me because I have shit
High
in my
school's a rough time. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a SISHIT, whatever. So, but even my good close friends, they always called me Shitty. Even in college, they called me Shitty. So that was my
Wait,
name. So
what?
I know, it's so funny, and I owned it, but I realized, like, it's kind of like a little like they're making fun of me, but whatever. So my Instagram handle was Shitty P for so long, and then a few years ago, I was like, why don't I just change it to my name? Like, why am I perpetuating this, right? So I tried to get Shital Patel, and they didn't have that. So I just popped in the real Shital Patel. And there are millions of Shital Patels. So I consider myself the realist of them all. So I
The
was
realist.
like the realist. So that's how that came about.
No, that's awesome. I love that story, and it has a good twist to it too, because it always reminds you of like how your high school self and like how you became like the realist and the baddest out of all of them. So it's
Yeah.
really cool to know that. Do you have any other plans for you like moving forward after the show, as far as like, just relationship or like in general, like just growing as a person? Do you guys have any new projects coming under the way?
Yeah. So I mean, we'll be on season 3. So that's something.
Hey, let's go, season 3.
Yeah, so that'll be next year. And then I think in terms of, personal growth, I really want to start exploring how I can actually turn the advice that I'm giving right now to, countless women who are struggling with finding love, and kind of help them find love, but also work on self concept, which is, your personal self confidence. That's what it starts with. And then to take it an even step even further, learn how to actually keep the relationship and stay in the relationship and make it successful, because that's the hope, right? When you get into something with someone, you're not like, hey, I'm dating this person and I hope that we get divorced, in 5 years, like that.
Yeah,
Your
exactly.
your intention is, I want a successful partnership with this person. That's you're building something together. So I did not know, because I've never been in a relationship where, one, I'm with my soulmate, and in a relationship that is, we're just so connected, and growing together on so many levels. And I want to take what I've learned from that and share that with people, of how you can actually, sustain that over time.
Yeah, no, and I would definitely learn from it too. Like I would definitely come for you to advice and just come
Yeah.
after hours and be like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" Because I could really use your opinion too, and I want to do it
You
right.
you
Like,
can you can message me anytime you want.
yeah, yeah, no, I'd really appreciate it because for me, I'm just trying to find the one too, and I think it's really hard because like when you take so much advice from your friends and stuff, and they're all in like this weird phase of marriage, I feel like they all mean to give you good advice, but sometimes it can come off too much is not good. You know what I mean? Like too
Yeah,
much advice from everyone is too like way too much. Like sometimes like maybe you're doing this wrong or I don't know. So it could like mess up the whole like
exactly.
flow of the new relationship.
Exactly. And I think, the questions that I get, that I sort of, let me think about how I'm going to phrase this. So I get a lot of
Sure.
questions of like, you people, so like, I was ghosted, or like, how do you, because people do that a lot nowadays, or should I be the one that texts first, or should I, do this? And I just genuinely, I'm just I don't want to play games. Like, I don't know. I was never,
Same.
I always wore my heart on my sleeve, and I never really thought like that. I was never like, oh, and maybe it scared people off, or, whatever, but they're not the right person for me. But I just think, like, if I'm not saying, like, on date one, like, fly this person to Paris or something, like, I don't mean it like that, but I'm saying, like, if you had a great date and you want to text the person first the next day, or you want to set something up, I think we could all use a little more honesty in the dating world, and I
Absolutely.
think and I think if we put ourselves out there and allow ourselves to be vulnerable, you're gonna get hurt. I mean, it's a risk. There's definitely gonna be times where, there's been many times where I've, like, put myself out there and the guy hasn't reciprocated. But I wouldn't be true to myself if I, like, sat there and played games and tried to figure things out like that. So I get a lot of those messages, and I'm just kind of like, that's so, like, at the surface. You gotta go a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, because I know from like a guy's perspective, I know a lot of guys who just don't try anymore.
Mhm.
Especially like just close friends too, because they give up. They're like, hey, I'm not getting that right I want on this app, or I'm not getting the dates, or I'm being rejected on dates. So they literally just give up. And I don't know if that's the right mentality to have, but they should also feel like they're important, right? Because if you just like give up, like I feel like it's the saying goes like what's meant for you will come your way. But if you're at
Mhm.
home and you're working a 9 to 5 and you work from home, I mean you're wasting all those years of your life just giving up, right? In my
Exactly.
opinion. So I think you should at least go to a bar and make a conversation with even a stranger and increase your social skill game
Yeah,
or
emotional.
whatever you
I think we call it emotional intelligence. Uh,
emotional intelligence, yeah. Increase your emotional intelligence, understand etiquette, understand respect, and then see if you could use that to leverage more dates or score more dates along the way. Um,
exactly, and I agree with you. I think, we all have points where we want to give up. Like, I've been doing this a long time, and there have been
yeah,
many
yeah,
many periods where I'm like, oh, I just need a break or a reset, and that's okay. But in that reset, just kind of reevaluate what you want, and then get back in there, because that's just what it is. Like, you really can't give up. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I gave up.
yeah, and I think like that's what I look up to because I saw like your admiration in the show, and I'm like, damn, like she didn't give up. She had a great storyline. She ended it strong,
Mhm.
and it just goes to show like nothing is impossible. You know what I mean? So I
It's not.
think it's always that. Could I ask you a couple rapid fire
Yeah,
questions if that's
sure,
cool?
sure. Let's do it.
So if money weren't an option, what would you do with your life every day? Maybe with you and Niraj, but like what would you guys do?
I would, I love eliciting emotions in people. So I would, and Neeraj and I take acting class together, but I would just,
Oh, snap.
I would just sharpen up my acting skills and just be in class and learn. That's what I would do if I didn't care about money.
That's awesome. That's great. And that's like also something like maybe you're passionate about and you already have experience with it, so why not
Mhm.
make it a full-time thing, you know? So,
Right.
if you were to live somewhere in a different country, where would it be?
I would definitely live in Paris. I would live in France.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you like the
I,
wine, the cheese, or the
I mean, I love all of that, but I love fashion. It is my heart. It's art to me. And to me, the Parisian women and Paris fashion is the center of
true.
everything. I mean, it's so effortless. And it's just it makes you feel like you're confident, you're sexy, like all of that, And so I want to immerse myself in that if I could live in.
I agree because like they have like a very like authentic European way of dressing, and it's just like the hats and the scarves, and you just see like the way they put on the coats, and they just look very well, like very well put together and like almost sleek and clean. And I
Yes,
really love that. I
sleek
love
and
that.
clean. You said it. That's perfect. Sleek and
There you
clean.
go. Yeah, so I love that. What's your favorite food?
Peanut butter. Is that a food?
It's a healthy fat.
It's
So
I know.
it's a healthy fat, so you're good.
That's my favorite snack. The peanut butter and banana. That's like I literally can live off of that for the rest of my life. My favorite food is probably anything Mexican. Like I'm hardcore Indian. Like I love, you
Are
know,
you a Taco Bell kind of girl or no?
I'm not. I know I used to like Taco
Okay,
Bell when
okay.
I was in. I get a lot of shit for that because I'm not. I didn't run for the Mexican pizza, but I like
Like this.
I like authentic Mexican food.
Yeah, of course. Like, just Jose Tejas or maybe
Yeah.
like
Don't
some
get me
kind of
wrong though.
nice.
If I have a hangover, yeah, I'm gonna order Uber Eats Taco Bell. But on a,
Yes.
only
No,
if
of
I have
course.
a hangover.
Yeah, it's always a speed dial away. I've been
Oh,
doing that recently more too, because it's
when you
winter.
have
I
when
just
you have a hangover,
DoorDash Thai food or Taco
yeah,
Bell or something.
on a hangover day.
Oh, hell yeah, of course. And then Liquid IV, can't forget that.
No, I
So.
had a nasty one on Sunday after Halloween, and I was like, "What am I gonna eat?" And it was like,
Yeah, I was out all night during Halloween till 3 a.m. and
yeah, but
then I got
I
back.
think your liver can handle a little better than mine. But
Maybe. It is getting tiring though, I'm not gonna lie, but
no,
you
I
know,
know,
fun.
I know.
Oh my God. But never again, and then next week it's back to tequila, right? So
Trust me, yeah, I know.
okay, I think we're good. I think I have everything I would
Awesome.
have asked you. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and I really appreciate your time. Do you have any questions for me as far as uh, mental health, or like I would love to have you on again just to see like catch up on you on your life story, and it'd be awesome to have you and to see if you see any new mental health like tips, advice, just different techniques too to cope. It'd be nice to have you on.
Definitely. I would love to come back. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I guess the one thing, I mean, I want to ask you, what motivates you, what inspires you?
That's a good question. I would say what motivates me? I think I would be my mom.
Okay.
It's more so like she's like one of my best friends. I know I
Oh,
sound like a mama's boy, but like,
definitely
um,
setting you up. I need to set you up.
oh my God. But like, it's one of those things where like she's my best friend and my confidant. And I kind of feel like having her support through all the people I date and all the like just like all the Asian like communities like stigma. I think
Mhm.
she's very unique as a human being, and I think she's very open to just seeing like the other day we were talking about gay rights and just
Okay.
Kim's Convenience. We watched that show together, and I think she has such an open mind, and that's where I get my creativity from. So I think it's one of those things where I see her as like kind of like a role model, and I see her. She was like the mom that worked like two jobs growing up, so it was just one of those things where I find my hard work ethic, even though I'm a little overprivileged. But that's like my motivation. But she tells me to be the best I can be. So I have a work from home job. I'm doing great work wise, but I always feel like I could create content.
Mhm.
And growing up, I'm doing that right now. So
Yeah.
making history. So
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, of course. And it's great to have you on. Thank you for coming on.
All right, Umang. Great. Awesome. Cool.
See you later.
Okay. See ya.